Mr. Scott, let me start with you. You represent the largest association of PBM companies, I think. Is that right?
Yes, sir. I believe the only.
The largest and only. Perfect. Now, just help me understand what it is your business is supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be making drugs cheaper for patients. Is that basically right?
We're supposed to help employers and plan sponsors administer benefits at a more affordable point for the consumers.
Okay, more affordable for consumers. That's patients. So you're supposed to be making would you say that you're succeeding?
We've had success in managing the net cost of drugs across most categories of medications, and yes, in large part, but we have the challenge of ever-escalating drug company list prices to work against.
Okay, let me translate that for you. I think the answer you're looking for is no. You're not succeeding at all. Look, let's look at some data. This data shows the percentage that Americans pay more than other countries for brand name drugs. In Canada, we pay 324% more than Canadians pay, 445% more than France, and so on. On average, all together, we pay 422% more than all of these other countries.
What's up, patriots? Welcome back to the channel, where we stand up for American families, expose corporate corruption, and fight for freedom, one truth bomb at a time. Today, we've got a doozy. I just watched Senator Josh Hawley absolutely grill the top dog of the pharmacy benefit manager, or PBM, industry in a recent Senate hearing. And folks, if you care about your health, your wallet, and the future of this great country, you need to hear about what went down. Let's break this video down, because what you're about to hear is the real reason Americans are paying sky-high prices for prescription drugs, while some corporate fat cats are raking in billions and shutting down the little guy. Grab your coffee, hit that like button, and let's get into it.
Now, either you're the worst negotiators in the history of the world, or something's wrong with your business model. Which is it?
Those, if I may, Senator, those are comparisons of list prices. Drug companies alone, as we talked about earlier, set the list price. The PBM is negotiating down the net cost.
Look, this consumers are, you're not telling me that consumers aren't paying more in the United States than they are overseas, are you?
I think the data would tell us that they are exposed to higher price points. And then it comes to an issue of benefit design. The plan decides what your copay
is. And the benefit, here's the benefit design. The design of the plan benefits the insurance companies and you. It does not benefit the patients. Patients are getting screwed, if I may. We are paying 2, 3, 4 times more for drugs. People in my state can't afford insulin. They can't afford the most basic drugs. That's when they have plans that are managed by you. And you guys are getting rich off of it. I mean, absolutely filthy rich. The FTC's report, so this is the government report now, found that the top 3 PBM companies generated $7.3 billion in profits between 2017 and 2022. $7.3 billion. That's a lot of money. Why is it that nobody can afford their drugs in this country, but you're making $7.3 billion? That's more than the revenue of some nations.
If I may, 2 points. One, you're not wrong that we need more competition among drug companies. The patent reforms that you all have advanced in this committee, the more we can have competition, we can leverage that to address that cost challenge that we have.
I'm glad you say we need competition, because
second,
don't you think the competition we really need is to break up this alliance between insurance companies and PBMs?
No, sir.
The biggest 3 PBMs are owned by the biggest insurance companies. You're like one huge, giant pharma industry, a giant pharma series of monopolists, right? Why is it a good idea for the biggest PBMs to be owned by the biggest insurers, and now you're buying up pharmacies as well? Why should we allow that? Why should insurance companies, PBMs, also own pharmacies?
So
How is that good for patients?
It's good for patients and for plans because it's creating optionality in the market.
It's creating optionality. In the state of Missouri, just last year, we lost 73 independent pharmacies across my state in 19 different counties. Do you know that 2 entire counties in the state of Missouri now have, wait for it, 0 pharmacies? 0. Now, you are making $7.3 billion, you and the companies that you represent, and yet 2 whole counties in the state of Missouri have no pharmacies, 73 closed last year. Why shouldn't we be breaking you guys up? I mean, this looks like classic monopolist behavior. The patients are getting screwed. Missourians are getting screwed. You're getting rich.
Respectfully, Senator, you keep citing a gross revenue number of the drug. Every dollar spent on prescription
You're not making.
drugs,
You don't have profits.
Profits are in the low single digits on
Your
average
profits
for
are
our
not
industry.
better than they've ever been.
I don't know on the trend over the years.
Yes, you
but
do.
they
You know
were
exactly. It is
the
all
lowest.
laid out in the FTC report. You absolutely know the answer. Your profits have increased and increased and increased, and now you are buying up pharmacies, and you're buying up pharmacies, and you're putting independent pharmacies out of business, and you're doing it deliberately because you are giving special rebates and lower costs to the pharmacies that you own, and you are directing patients to the pharmacies that you own, such that if they don't go to a pharmacy that you own, they have to pay higher costs, they have to pay out-of-network costs, right? You're nodding your head, Dr. McGowan. You've lived this, right?
I have lived this. I live it every day. Yes, that's exactly what's happening.
So, Mr. Scott, why don't we break you guys up? Can you agree? I mean, if you believe in competition, you just said a second ago, we need more competition, by golly. Well, let's do it.
And
let's break up the let's pass a law that says PBMs cannot own pharmacies. You for that?
No, sir. And we've seen that competition grow in the last 5 years by 18% in the PBM market, by 9% in the last 2 years.
Wait a minute. You've seen the number of pharmacies grow in this country?
The number of PBMs, meaning it's a competitive marketplace.
It's not a
Independent
competitive
pharmacy
marketplace.
data.
The biggest 3 PBMs own 80% of the business. 80%. And you're in turn owned by the biggest insurance companies. The problem is there is no competition. It's a racket. It's a total racket. And the people who lose are the patients who cannot afford the prescription drugs. It's time for this Congress to do something about it. Now, Senator Welch.
Thank you.
So, Senator Hawley starts off by asking Mr. Scott, the guy who represents the biggest PBM association, what their job is. And you know what Scott says? He claims PBMs are supposed to help employers and plan sponsors administer benefits at a more affordable point for the consumers. Let me translate that Washington speak for you. They say they're supposed to get us lower drug prices. But folks, are you seeing lower prices? Is your neighbor with diabetes able to afford insulin? Is anybody's prescription bill going down? Yeah, I didn't think so. And then Senator Hawley just lays out the facts. Americans are paying 324% more for brand name drugs than folks in Canada. 445% more than in France. On average, 422% more than people in other developed countries. That's not a little bit more. That's a ripoff. So Hawley asked the obvious question. Are these PBMs the worst negotiators in history? Or is the business model just totally broken? And what does Mr. Scott do? He starts pointing fingers at drug manufacturers, saying it's all about the list price. Classic corporate deflection. But let's get real. Patriots. These PBMs are supposed to negotiate prices down. That's their whole excuse for existing. If they can't do it, why are we paying them billions? And speaking of billions, Hawley brings receipts. The top 3 PBM companies made $7.3 billion in profits. Profits in just 5 years. Meanwhile, Americans are skipping meds, rationing insulin, and losing their local pharmacies. That's not the free market at work. Folks, that's crony capitalism. That's the swamp. Now, here's where my blood really starts boiling. Hawley points out that in Missouri alone, 73 independent pharmacies shut down last year. 2 whole counties now have 0 pharmacies. Why? Because these PBMs, which are conveniently owned by the biggest insurance companies, are using their power to squeeze out the little guy. They give special deals to the pharmacies they own, and they make it harder for you to use your hometown pharmacy. You want to support your neighbor's small business? Too bad. Pay a higher price or drive 2 counties over. And you know who benefits? Not you. Not your family. Not your community. The only people getting rich are the suits at the top of these PBMs and their insurance company buddies. Listen, this is not what America was built on. We believe in competition. We believe in the free market. We believe in rewarding hard work, innovation, and giving every American a fair shot, not rigging the game for a handful of monopolists. But what do we see here? The 3 biggest PBMs control 80% of the market, and they're owned by the 3 biggest insurance companies. That's not competition, that's a cartel. That's big pharma and big insurance teaming up to keep prices high, crush small businesses, and line their own pockets. And when Senator Hawley suggests breaking up the PBMs, says, hey, maybe it shouldn't be legal for PBMs to own pharmacies. Mr. Scott says no. Of course he does, because then they'd lose their little racket. Let me tell you, this is exactly why we need leaders like Senator Hawley who are willing to stand up to these corporate monopolies, expose the rigged system, and fight for everyday Americans. And you know what else? This is why the establishment hates outsiders. They want to keep us distracted, divided, and paying through the nose while their donors get richer. It's why they fight tooth and nail against real reform, because the swamp looks out for its own. Patriots, it's time to say enough is enough. We need to break up these corporate monopolies. We need to return power to local communities, protect small businesses, and make healthcare affordable again for real Americans, not just the privileged elite. If you're as fired up about this as I am, let your voice be heard. Call your senators. Demand real reform. Support leaders who are willing to take on big pharma, big insurance, and the PBM racket. And if you've got a story about struggling with high drug prices or losing your local pharmacy, drop in the comments. Let's make our voices impossible to ignore. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because the only way we win is together. This is Freedom Forge, signing off. Stand tall, stand proud, and never stop fighting for America.